Yeah, so I've been really tired recently because of the dog. But it's
Does
nice.
she keep you up?
Well, she keeps my mum. Okay, so we all have our different responsibilities. My mum keeps her okay during the night, so she would sleep downstairs. The dog would get up like every 3 hours or so if she's lucky to like use the loo.
Okay.
So she would manage that, and then during the day, if there's no one around, she whines like hell. We need to get her a little bit used to that, but like you still need to be there. So my mum takes like my brother to work, so whenever they're out the house, I am then responsible for looking after her. But it coincides with her kind of nap times, so I'm responsible for keeping her asleep during those times, which is actually really nice because we've got like a cage for her that acts as her bedroom. She's like allowed to leave it. Hey Kev. And like she starts sleeping in there, and when she starts waking up, you don't want her to get too excited. So like I pretend to sleep like next to her in the cage. So she looks at me, and then you can see her calculating, and then she lays back down again and goes back to sleep. So I've been doing that. It's like looking after a baby for like a week. Yeah.
Separation anxiety with dogs is such a difficult thing to get your head round.
Yeah.
When I was bringing our pup up, she's 8 years old now. She's with my dad, but I was up for every hour in the first week and like every 2 hours for the second, and so forth.
Yeah.
It does get tiring, but it makes it worth it. I think in total we had 7 indoor accidents before she was fully trained.
Yeah.
But it took a lot to get there.
Yeah, definitely. She's had a couple of accidents. Erin?
Whenever I've had dogs in the past, they've always been rescues, so we've never had to train them from being puppies.
Yeah.
So I've always been excused from the teething and the weeing everywhere.
We lost a couple of door frames.
Yeah, we forgot how bad the biting could be. Because I mean, like puppy teeth are like razor sharp. They're insane. I've got cuts all over my arms and like my feet and stuff. But man,
it's worth it.
Yeah, when she's overtired a bit, like when she needs sleep, she goes like full rabid and just like bites everything. Doesn't matter what it is. If anything comes near her, she's going after it with her teeth. But she's been getting better at that, so that's good. But yeah, it is.
What worked really well with Ebony was if she at all got a tooth on your skin, you acted like it was the worst thing ever. You keeled over, almost dying, and then they're like, "Oh no, what have I done to you? What have I done to you?"
Yeah. Hi, Tom. By the way.
Hello. Hey.
Yeah, because we've been trying different techniques because you don't want to be too negative, but you need a bit of negative because they need to understand what no means. Like they usually learn it from the other puppies, their brothers and sisters. That's why the play fighting is so important, because they'll learn how hard they should bite down before it's too much. So we've got like sounds that we make. So
you can always bite her back.
Yeah, exactly. But like whenever she gets too hard, like we each have our own like quick loud noise. Say, like that's a bit too much. And she's starting to actually understand that properly now.
Nice.
I think it's going okay.
Very jealous. The pictures are so cute whenever you show them.
Yeah, she's very photogenic. We look at her like because we know how bad she can get, like when she's really bitey. So we look at her sitting across the room, just like with her like puppy dog eyes, looking all sweet, and we're like, "You were trying to bite my toes off a second ago. I'm not falling for it."
Hey, Markham, how you doing?
Hey, Markham.
Morning, guys.
All right.
Morning.
Yeah.
Come on, say morning and see you later. I'm wrecked.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Work. Yeah, I've had it for a few months now.
It's your merch,
Tax
right?
deduction.
Nice.
Like your whole wardrobe is on expenses.
Nice haircut, Kev. You're looking suave.
I know what you mean by when you say photogenic. Here's one of Ebony. Taking a photo of a black dog is nearly impossible.
All right, I need to see on
She's so cute.
They don't last being that cute. The eyes stay puppy-like for their life, but otherwise they're just melts in your mouth.
Yeah. Hi, Sean.
Hello. Sorry, I was having some typical technical issues that I always seem to have.
That's all right.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought a bunch of professional video people have technical issues with their video?
The people that have the most
So
technical
true.
issues.
Yeah.
By the way, Sean, nice article in 3D Artist or 3D World now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I still haven't seen it. So someday.
It's like $25 here in the States. You guys get it for like half a quid.
Yeah, you get it really cheap here.
And it comes out like I think 2 months later here or something.
Yeah.
Hey, really?
I had a yearly subscription that was always coming out 2 months later.
Yeah, I had that same thing for a long
By the time
time.
it ships over to Australia.
Why don't they just print, like, have a factory over there printing? Why isn't that cheaper than trying to post it?
Probably because it's
Way
too
cheaper,
expensive to print it for 3 people.
Oh yeah.
Guess what's nice though is like they did a whole Blender special. They got Andy, they got Simon Thomas in here doing things as well. It's nice.
Oh, that's great.
All right,
We'll
I'm
see-
going to head
we'll
off.
see
I got to go to work.
Yeah.
I did that.
Bye, Malcolm.
See you, Markham.
See ya.
Have fun at work.
There we go. Found it. Sean Kennedy. Got your
Ah,
Blender.
right on. There it is.
Nice. Wow, full page spread.
That's
Look
nice.
at that.
Yeah, it actually goes on longer. There's some other pages as well, breaking it all down.
You got the centerfold.
Very cool.
Nice.
Wouldn't be the first time.
God. So what's been happening? When was the last episode? It was like 2 weeks ago, I think.
We did one last week,
You did one.
but I don't know if Arturo put it up.
Yeah, Arturo didn't edit it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He was
Alright.
busy. He's been busy.
Anyone talk about Daniel's video on BlenderNest?
No, because it didn't hit yet at that point. I don't. Well,
All right.
maybe it did. I don't know if it hit at that point. But yeah, that's just
No.
insane.
Yeah,
Mm,
crazy.
yeah.
And Tom did a nice video talking about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I like
awesome,
that, yeah.
Tom. Well, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
a new god is
Push.
risen, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, do you remember we had conversations?
Yeah.
Always lagging out for me.
Oh, internet. Yeah.
Internet
Oh.
issues.
Yeah.
Wonder if he's gonna keep going on. What are you gonna do?
We
Tom-
heard nothing, Mark.
Tom, are you-
Tom.
We had some issues there.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
He's
I've been
gone.
And he won't
pronouncing
come
names.
back.
Where'd he
I've been
go?
like,
Earlier. Oh, there's Tom.
yeah.
Any better? Does it sound better?
You sound fine.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you now.
So what were you saying?
I have no idea. But 5 million. That's quite a bit.
Is that what
Yeah.
it is now?
Yeah,
Jeez.
more than
5.7.
5 million.
Yeah.
Crazy
5
lad.
million.
Yeah.
That dude just like he
Oh.
won YouTube. Like that's it. He just won. He started off with a goal and he won.
I don't know if you remember,
Yeah.
Tom, but because you know when
That's
we
amazing.
used to talk quite a bit earlier on in the year, privately, there was a conversation we had where I said, I wonder if like anyone from the Blender community is ever going to like breach into the mainstream YouTube space, because it just hasn't really happened yet, but it seems like Daniel's the guy.
There we go.
Genius.
He's done well picking his picking his topics, and when he was doing all of the he was doing the redesigning desktop icons, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like touching on Minecraft, and then obviously people love Minecraft, and then he's worked out how to like ride that wave on the algorithm.
Hmm.
Yeah, he started off really smart. I mean, he was trying to do that stuff right from the start, but he said it. I mean, he's just like, you talk to him, he's like so down to earth about it. And he's just like, he'll probably pop on, maybe, I don't know, but he's just like, yeah, it's just I was like bored looking at my computer, going, hey, I could redesign icons. Let's try that. And like, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
he's like the proof positive. They like just throw stuff at the wall and like something you just don't know.
Yeah.
On top of it, he is very smart too, so that helps.
he is.
That definitely helps him. But that's great. I'm just excited that like somebody from the Blender community can like breach, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I remember those conversations. Like, is anyone going to breach this?
Hmm.
And yeah, if he's like at over 5 million views for Blender stuff,
Next we have Tom. Yeah. Who might reach soon.
yeah,
Tom's got the potential.
Yeah.
he's got
Yeah,
the-
we'll
full
see.
potential.
I just don't have ideas like that. I'm taking tips from his last video. I'm gonna try to make the next edit more of a story, because I like how he does that.
yeah, his story stuff is really cool. Like if you look at like channels like oh man, I can't even remember now. But there's one in particular that's like it does that, and it's really cool, and and it seems to help with watch time too. So I think we'll all start doing that now. But the story stuff is really cool. So so I set out to do this, and I found this, and this happened, and I mean it just works. People like that.
Yeah.
I find a lot of Rob's videos are quite like that as well, decoded. He'll talk through his like process. Yeah.
I really like that. I watched his videos like in a row, like about 5 of his, like creating the full scene from start to finish. Because I'm working on the scene, I really need some inspiration, and it really helped me a lot. Like the lighting and everything. It was nice.
I've done videos like that once or twice, and it does feel, I don't like not easier, but more relaxed, I guess, kind of. Even if it is partially scripted, if you want to do it that way, but it does feel like you don't have to like really over plan every like point. It's just like, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this. Take it or leave it. You know? It's quite nice.
Yeah, it is nice. I've done it too, early on too, and I did some like fast videos where I did like time lapse. I did a couple that I explained stuff. This was like a couple years ago, and those take off. People like that story stuff. But then you always get a lot of the comments like, "But I don't understand what you did. I don't understand. Why did you put this up there?" And you're like, "Oh, well, it's just." That's why I put a like explainer on the end of some of those that I do. Or I put quick and dirty. I'm like, all right, here, I'm just gonna like preface this video by saying this is not a step-by-step thing.
Yeah, it's not a tutorial. It's a workflow, isn't it, rather than a tutorial?
Yeah, it is a workflow.
Definitely.
But I'm psyched for Daniel. I really am. I'm super happy for that dude. I really am.
It's nice to see someone actually hitting what they're aiming for.
I know,
and well surpassing it, because he was not expecting that at all.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah,
but yeah,
like
in a single day, right? 1 million in a day.
Yeah, I think he woke up and he was in shock. He's like, "What's going on?"
I'm not surprised. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, haven't we? Where where we're like, you'll have that one video that does like 10 times better, or in his case, like several orders of magnitude better than previous, and then the next video after that is not going to be anywhere near it.
Oh, performance anxiety.
You just have to, you have to be ready for that. I think. Like, I sold something on Amazon once that it was like a print on demand thing, and a celebrity tweeted it out. And
nice.
I woke up and my phone was ding, 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 sell. That my actual credit card company like locked my account. So I had to, in midstream, I had to switch to keep the sales going. I had to switch to another like I don't remember what I did. Like I wired it like directly to my bank account or something, just so like because I had to purchase the stuff. So when somebody bought it, they had to. Like I have to buy the actual product and then I tack on, the profit after that. And I just, so like they stopped it and people couldn't get sales. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And it like, I sold like 600 units of that one thing. And like for the next month, I was like selling like 2 or 3 a day. And that was it. And I was like, oh my God, I suck. I'm horrible at this. I'm a failure. But like, no, it's because I got like this viral hit. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that for another discussion video. Performance anxiety. Because there's so much, like, you could blag on about that for hours.
That's one of the things about being an artist, though, isn't it? It's so much ebb and flow. Even just like down to your mood, it can be like, I'm just not feeling it. And then suddenly it's like, I'm a terrible artist. I can't be an artist because I'm not, like, I don't feel productive for the past 2 hours.
Yeah,
like, 2 hours, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. That's so true.
If you look at your work over 6 months or a year, then actually you've got like a pretty steady rise and you're actually doing okay. So it's just seeing the wood from the trees.
Yep.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's so true.
You did mention this about this in the luck video, right, Curtis? A little bit.
Yeah, the deserving thing is what that's part of it. Like when you get a lot of like views or something and then you don't get so many, even though you're doing the same content, you think, well, I got lots before, so I deserve lots of views. And you're like, well, just shut up, man. Like you gotta keep yourself grounded.
I'm entitled to more. Give me more.
Yeah. You gotta learn to appreciate the waves as they come. Like you use them, but you gotta know that it might go. You should take it as a sign that you're capable of like interacting with the world in a way where that's possible. Like whenever my sales have done really well, I've gone, okay, that's temporary. They're going to go down, but that's a good sign. Like that'll be like a gold star in my book. There you go. You've done something good. You can do it again in the future. So like it's a confidence boost, I guess.
It is a confidence boost.
Yeah.
You know, but on the converse side, it's like when you pour your heart into something, especially the videos where you're teaching.
Yeah.
Like I do find that there's definitely a strong break on YouTube where people are looking more for entertainment than they are for like teaching. But I do find that when you do teach, you get more quality. You get more a better response, more like it's more targeted. It's helping versus like the entertainment
a lot more
stuff.
thank
Like,
yous.
Yeah, exactly. Like you do get a lot more thank yous. Like, wow, you helped me solve a problem. So like, you know, you go to bed feeling a lot better because you're like, wow, I actually like helped people. But entertaining is fun too because that's when you get like, you know, the massive waves. So
it is
it's ebb and flow, right?
Sometimes, like, I guess the same people can want both types of content, but it just depends on the time and what they're doing. So, and entertainment it's so much easier just to watch and just get on with. Like if I'm eating my lunch or dinner in front of the monitor, I'm gonna put on something funny rather than like a documentary, you know. But
yeah, like it's like what do you watch? You know, do you watch like scenes from Borat or do you watch like the nature of the Arctic penguin? Like,
yeah.
Well,
funny thing is,
Borat
like,
it is.
I will watch documentaries when I'm like not doing anything else and I'm just focusing on them. But like, yeah, anything comedy is just for the multitasking mind. When I'm just
if you can walk that line of like edutainment though, that's like a good place to be for YouTube anyway. Like I get that other platforms are much more like here you teach. But...
Default CG Cube does that in almost every video.
Yeah.
He smiles.
It matches the personality.
He knows it's true.
That's
but yeah, you make like really entertaining, funny videos that also teach, so you can get both from it.
Yeah,
like
that's hard to do with longer format though.
Yeah,
he's not doing much of CG Matter content now.
No, dude.
Right?
Well, I need to do one today because I got a deadline. I didn't realize was happening. So today's real bad. But yeah, they're back down to like one a week.
I'm not worried about you though, like for your deadlines, because remember you had a really tight deadline when we did the supermarket episode.
Technically, I think that one I missed because that was back in the no Wi-Fi thing. So I'm going like Dunkin' Donuts at 1 a.m. They didn't even have Wi-Fi, so just waited till the next day.
But that was super entertaining for BlenderNest when you showed up at these different random locations and people are like walking by in the background, looking like, "What's he doing?"
I know.
And we're like focused back on the Cheerios that's behind you and the you know.
Oh man, should we talk about this year and like what's coming forward? Because I feel like it's going to be weird going out again when things have settled down.
Just don't do it.
Do. Yeah, just this is
just
my life.
Stay home.
I'm so used to this. I'm pretending that I go out before the pandemic anyway.
Yeah, it made very little change to me, to be quite honest. It was just the kids were around for all the time instead of that nice 7-hour window during the day, like 9 till 3 or whatever it is. Is that 7 hours? I don't know. But yeah, it was just managing the kids at home was the big thing, and now they're back at school, but we're still on lockdown. It's like, well, okay, I'm happy being at home. I'm kind of a social person, but nah, I'll stay at home.
Yeah, what is the school situation at the moment? Because you're in the UK as well.
So yeah, they're back to normal. But if someone they tend to have like if it's a really big school, they have years split into bubbles or whatever the terminology the school uses. Right. And then if someone in that bubble it has a positive case, that whole chunk of year goes off.
Oh, okay.
And on smaller schools, that might be the whole year or 2 years going off. So, I mean, it varies from school to school. That's the interesting thing. In the house, we've got kids going to 4 different schools in total.
Damn.
So they're supposed to stay separate, aren't they? Like year groups or bubbles, they're supposed to be like not interacting with each other. But then whenever when we drive through town and you see the school kids coming out of the secondary school there, there's no distancing. Yeah, exactly.
No, there's no
like 200 people there.
Yeah, we're in Los Angeles. We're still shut down. The kids are all learning remotely. I mean, maybe there are actually, I don't know if there are any schools that are actually in session. None of the public schools are.
Really?
We're experiencing a huge surge right now. So I have a friend who's he's a ED doctor, actually as chief ER, and he's he was just saying, he's like, it's horrible. He's like, there are people waiting in the parking lot to get beds in the ICU. It's or in the emergency room. Like it's
shocking.
He was just like, he's like, stay home, just stay home. So it's the next few weeks are going to be pretty trying. Maybe the next month.
Yeah.
And then we got the vaccine coming, so that'll start rolling out. And then I think it's going to be weird because people, we're going to get immune to it, and we're going to be back to whatever normal is. But I don't know if normal's going to change.
Yeah.
I like
there's
working
still
from
going to be a
home,
lot of people. Yeah, people working from home. That had a huge impact on the environment, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Not traveling, and the school runs dropped 10 minutes in time. I mean, that's a phenomenal saving.
Yeah.
Just being able to sit at 60 miles per hour rather than stuck behind a slow traffic 40.
Be able to say insert number here, miles an hour.
Yeah,
what's the legal number? I'll edit in post. you can say the real number. I'll put 60 afterwards.
Yeah, my car. I drive an electric car, so it's only got a top speed allegedly of 112 miles an hour.
All right. Okay.
Oh, that would cut even more time off your school run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll never hear you coming.
Allegedly. I love that. Allegedly. 120 miles an hour.
The vaccines are rolling out here in the UK. You must have seen like that lady that got it. She was like wearing, I don't know if it was like this nice penguin shirt, but she was all over the news. First person.
She was like 97, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's rolling out. We've got like friends of the family that have had it as well now, so it's definitely going down through like the tiers. Old people going down to like vulnerable people. I'm somewhere higher priority than like my brother because I've got the suppressed immune system, so I want to know when I'm getting mine. But I'm looking forward to it. Like I really want that.
Yeah, they started today in the United States. I think the FDA released it. They said, okay, it's fine, let's do it. And I think they're starting today. I watched a video of a plane landing in like Kentucky or something, just like shipping for distribution. So it's starting.
Yeah. Is it the same vaccine that you've got? Are you on the Pfizer one as well?
I think it's the Pfizer one. How do you pronounce it? PF.
Pfizer.
There we go.
Pfizer.
Yeah.
I think it's that one.
The same company that makes Viagra.
Woohoo!
But yeah, they rolled it out. They actually didn't take any of the Operation Warp Speed money, and they actually just using that mRNA technology. So it's really cool. I hope I get the Pfizer one.
Yeah. I wonder if
I don't know why. I just kind of want it.
I wonder if the announcement of the UK like putting it out like really recently has kind of forced other people to get faster at approving it because
maybe.
Because as soon as it said, "Oh, we're approving it for use," there was quite a lot of criticism from around the world. What was your health official's guy's name that kind of implied that maybe it was rushed?
Was it Fauci?
I don't know if it was him, but he said that it was rushed, and then he had to retract the statement afterwards and say, "Actually, that's kind of not what I meant." And now you've approved it as well, and it's like, well, there's only a few days between that time, so I don't know.
Yeah. But I wonder what the effect is going to be on our industry from that. I mean, we've really to kind of bring the conversation back into like Blender, like we really like blew up underneath the pandemic. Like people were watching YouTube more. They were like, oh my god, my career's like, especially if you're like a hairdresser or something where you have to be out in the public and your job is like axed, right? And you have. If you were lucky enough to get some compensation or whatever, or you had some money saved up, you're like, what else can I do? And people were turning to like, oh, I always wanted to do 3D animation, or I always wanted to play guitar, or I always wanted to like whatever, like learn pottery.
Yeah.
So they would go on YouTube and like it just blew up. Like I wonder when people start going out again, what the effect on like YouTube viewership for all of us who have channels doing this stuff, and B like the interest in, say, like, because we're all in 3D, so what's the interest in 3D? Is it going to wane as people start going back to their jobs? Like there's so many unknowns.
I think it's going to be a bit of disparity as well between educational content and entertainment content, because people are still going to want entertainment content, but people who are going back to jobs and no longer looking to like get new skills, they're kind of going to dissipate a little bit, I think. So you might see a bit of a downward trend.
At the same time, I imagine there are so many more people entering freelance now. After getting like a taste of working from home, they've probably thought, wait, why do I need to go to work now? Christ, like this is doable.
Yeah.
I can do this. And then they've probably picked up new skills and then stuck around. So I wonder if like the positives, I don't know if we should call them positives or negatives, but like for the sake of viewership, yeah, whether the positives and negatives will balance each other out slightly. People going back to work, but new people joining the industry in a way, and maybe, I don't know.
I was just gonna say, like, I think I'm one of the few people that are looking forward to going back to work, like in a studio. Like I worked for 2 years from home after Rhythm Hughes went under, and after a while, after about 6 months of it, I got really sick of it, and just always being in here, never leaving ever. And I would, my wife would come home, and I'd be so excited, like, let's go out, let's go do something, and she'd just want to come home and chill. So I kind of got sick of being here. So doing it again, I mean, I'm fine. I totally get it. Like, I'm happy to do it, but if they were to open the studio back up and everything starts going back to normal, and they give us the opportunity to either come in or stay home, I think I'd go in probably like 3 days a week maybe, and see if I could do like Thursday and Friday from home or something like that. Like I miss my commute. I used to ride my bike to work. It was like 4 miles, and I miss that. That was really nice. It was relaxing. It was a great way to unwind after, when you're coming home. So I kind of miss a lot of it. And I focus better at work in a studio. I focus a lot better than, having computers around me and YouTube's here and music is here and the TV's, 3 feet away. It's nice to just be somewhere where I'm only expected to look at this one thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's a really interesting point, though, because I'm very lucky. I've got my garage, as some of you have seen, that is about to become office, and we've finally got the window guy sorted. So we can get things bricked up and actually made into a space. So I'm very lucky and fortunate that I've got this space that is separate from the house. So there's the distraction of YouTube and other things because I'm at my computer, but I can kind of isolate myself. And I wonder how many of you other guys are isolated from the rest of your life.
No.
I'm right on top of it. Like Sean, like I can't.
I'm in the living room. My computers are all in the living room.
Yeah,
that's how I
touch my bed.
Yeah.
I mean,
my bed's right there. We just roll out like a blob and just.
Right now, I'm in fantasy land, but like my computer is out in the living room, and it's just like I can't. I'm on top of everything's on top of everyone else, and like, there is a part of me. If I worked closer, it would be much cooler. I think that the biggest thing for me is my commute. So knock that out, and I would be like, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, whatever, split it. That's fine. Totally cool. Because I'm a social guy too. I get it. Like I want to be out. I like people, but I also like coffee. And and there's really bad coffee at work. And I have a Chemex here, and I make really good coffee, slow drip here. And it makes a difference in my day.
I should give a little shout out to Rachel Frick quickly, the hard service modeler, because for some reason decaf coffee never crossed my mind, like ever. I just thought decaf coffee wasn't a thing, even though I've heard of it before. And I was coming off of tea this year because I have like a tannin intolerance, and I thought, well, I don't like caffeinated things necessarily because my body isn't really capable of dealing with that. So I tried decaf coffee, and for some reason it really helps with my mood. Don't know what it is. It's not like a caffeine high or anything, but it's just like it, for some reason whatever's in it like really lifts my mood. Like in the evenings it's a lot better, especially. So I've been having that every day, and it's been really nice.
There's still a little bit of caffeine in there. I don't think it's completely stripped. So it might just be enough to trip your system, because when I drink coffee, I can focus. I can learn. I like immediately just like I will like pick up like something that I'm struggling with after I drink a cup of coffee, and I'm like, I absorb it. It's awesome.
For me, it's again tea, but my mom makes a different type of tea. It's not like the normal tea, but with, as you said, like ilachi. I mean, like cumins and all these things, which adds more flavor to it. It kind of refreshes everything, even the ginger, a little ginger tea.
Ooh, ginger tea is good.
Yeah, I've got a special stash of like a very strong ginger tea for when I'm feeling sick. That's like my medicinal corner. Like if because ginger is really good for your stomach, right? When you're feeling ill. So like whenever I feel sick, I'm like, okay, it's time to pull that out. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's like the best.
Talking about teas, my advent calendar.
Oh my god.
No way. That's just awesome.
Wait, Pucker do an advent calendar?
That's great.
Yeah, my partner surprised me with it. I was like, but where's the chocolate? Yeah.
Very
but the good
nice.
thing is it's got things that I'd never buy a packet of 10, 20, whatever they come with. Because I'm like, well, I'm not wasting money on that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pucker do them really good. They do really good
nice
fennel and peppermint.
Oh, fennel's
that,
good too.
That was
yeah.
nice.
Get that licorice taste.
Yeah, that was number 9.
Are they the one
Most
that
people
do...
hate fennel or licorice. I like black licorice.
So
fennel for me is awesome.
There was one brand that did a CBD blend
it.
that I want to try,
Sorry.
but I can't remember what one it was. It's supposed to be one of these ones that's like, like help you sleep and stuff, because most tea companies just put lavender in, which I guess is quite nice, but yeah, I want to give it a try.
Well, we do have those cannabinoid receptors that the Israeli found a few years ago, or back in the 90s or whatever, so that might be good.
I used to take CBD for a little while in 2019, the middle of it, when I was having these extreme anxiety moments in the evenings. I don't even know whether to call it anxiety. It was like a weird emotional change. It ended up going away, so it might have been dietary, and I was trying to eliminate it, but they did help for a bit. I mean, I spoke about it on the podcast in the past, but it had all kinds of weird but really cool side effects for me in terms of like just clarity and memory.
Yeah, you had mentioned that on here before, I remember.
So I would like to take it, but I was having, again, like the tannin intolerance type reaction to it after a while. So I want to try and find maybe some kind of blend or make of it that doesn't give me that, because it's very sickening and hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I just bought a new computer, and they sent me like a gift pack of stuff, like a t-shirt and a mouse pad and even like a mask with their logo on it. And they sent me a coffee mug and some coffee. And I don't drink coffee. My wife only drinks like decaf and real light things. And it's like the computer manufacturer usually does gaming machines. So it's like some high caffeine, like for energy, stay up for 3 days playing your whatever game. No idea what to do with it. So if any of you guys want it, I'll put it in the mail. I'll wipe it down first.
Try one shot and video it.
I may take you up on that.
You'll finish.
So yeah, speaking of the computer thing, that's really interesting, because I know a few of you guys have just purchased new computers. I know you got one, Sean. I know Daniel got one. I think he built a new one.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been talking about them, and I'm definitely like starting to enter the market now for a more powerful machine, and seeing those 3080 cards coming around. Like, how are you guys liking those?
I'm loving mine.
I've got a 3070. It's compared to the 3080. I did the Blender benchmark, the official test, and it was 36 minutes, either optics or CUDA for the 1080. I believe you got a 1070, haven't you, Kev? So
1070, that's what I have, yeah.
And the 3070 came back as like 6 minutes something. I was like, no, I've got to run the test again. That's a false. I was expecting, because I had a 3080 lined up. I was like, oh, it's gone. Oh, it's gone. And then the 3070s were released, and I was like, oh, these are available. I'll grab one. And I was just blown away by the speed of the viewport and everything else. I mean, that's the thing. You see the 3090 comes out, and you see people showing it off, and you're like, I don't want to spend or can't spend $1,500 plus on a card.
Yeah.
It's very pricey, and I budgeted it all out, and I thought, okay, March next year I'll get myself one, because they'll be available, and they might release a 3090 Ti or something in the interim. You know what Nvidia are like.
Exactly.
And then I sat down and went, I've never ever run out of VRAM without trying. You know, when I go, I'm going to put 1 million particles in, or I'm going to put 50 subdivisions in, or something stupid. So I thought, I'll just run with a 3070. If I do need the upgrade, I'll trade it in. You know, lose a couple of £100 on it. They may still be rare by then, so it may go for list price. Who knows? And upgrade. But the 3070 just blew everything out of the water compared to what I was used to. I was like, this can't be real.
Yeah, I definitely looking, because I have another few freelance projects coming up, and I'm going to need heavy rendering, and I'm like, kind of like the last one I did, I had to hyper manage the project. I mean, I had to do time management that like my brain doesn't even like to do, just to make it all happen, and it worked, and it turned out well. But I'd like a little headspace in there, you know, and I think that was 3070s or 3080s.
Yeah, I was using a render farm on the last project I did because, like you were saying, when I'm trying to hit deadlines and stuff, I need a render to happen. I can't wait.
You can't wait. Yeah,
I'm doing a video. I need it there and then, so I outed it to a render farm, and it would take 24 minutes, and the 1070 would take like I don't know what it would be, 7.5 hours or something stupid like that. But that's comparable. The 3070 is now comparable to me having used that render farm.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
What? Yeah. Obviously, it's not quite on par. The render farms I think it was using Titan, so it had 24 gigs of frame buffer. So if you did have a large scene, they'd be able to handle it. So I'm still limited to the 8 gigs anyway. So, but the speed increase, providing you're using optics. I mean, it was still 3 times faster using CUDA. So as long as you're not, I think the latest build of blenders, including ambient occlusion, so 2.92 when it comes around, will have ambient occlusion in optics. So it's only a few things. Baking, I don't think you can bake, but again, that's not in my main workflow a lot of the time.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to use ambient occlusion with optics because that's the thing that's prevented me from using it. I'm still using CUDA. And
but yeah,
it's so slow.
Yeah.
Talking about it, you're putting out more ambient grunge stuff with Metal Pack. Metal Pack.
I'm working on the modular metals pack. I put a little preview up on Twitter today. I'm very happy with the results. It's because I usually
so good.
Thank you.
That copper one looked lush.
Yeah.
That patina.
I haven't Googled it yet. But does copper have the green corrosion in the actual crevices or on the surface?
Oh, it's usually quite consistent because it's just reacting with air.
It's oxidation.
Yeah. It's technically not reacting with oxygen from what I can tell.
Is that right?
Yeah, so it creates copper carbonate.
Oxidation process.
And
oh wow,
it's called people call it oxidation just because that's it's the easiest thing.
What Rust does, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what Rust does.
Rust, oxidation stress.
Yeah.
So is it copper carbonate that's on the surface?
Yeah, copper carbonate is on the surface.
So it's releasing oxygen.
I think so. I need to double check. But when I called it oxidized copper to start with, and everyone in like the YouTube community was like, actually, it's not oxidation. I was like, all right,
you're wrong.
So I've called I'm not calling it that anymore. But anyway, yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the project. Usually I don't spend this long on things, but I wanted to get it really good, and I've been quite tough on myself about getting it looking realistic. And even though I'm very happy with it, there are still bits where I'm like, it could be a bit better. And then I'm just like, look, just you've done well. That's enough. It is, after all, completely procedural. Like, we can't go too much further.
And all that matters is that it looks convincing. In the end, it's the frame, right? Like if it looks convincing, if it looks like patina, then you've won.
Yeah, I mean, and these are just examples because there's a whole bunch of other node groups for the pack as well for getting battered surfaces and imperfections and different types of them, and like having control over them, and combining them with these kind of pre-made examples for the copper and the rust, you can get some really interesting yet kind of non-realistic effects. They look realistic, but they shouldn't really exist. So I'm having a lot of fun just making presets. So I've got like I call it archaeology, gold, silver, and bronze, where it's like if you've just like taken something out of the ground and cleaned it like a piece of like jewelry or something, where the surface isn't quite perfect, but you can see it's kind of been dented, but it's still gold, and so things like that. And I'm really enjoying it because I'll be able to use that for my work quite a lot.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah. The renders are amazing, like on the sculptures.
Procedural packs like that are really awesome for set dressing, where you just need to build up the scene that you're working on really quickly, and you're like, I'll assign concrete here, metal there, whatever it happens to be, and then you can focus on your main model and actually tweak those materials. Because to be quite honest, most procedural materials, once you've put on a background object and maybe tweaked a couple of sliders, boom, you're done. Move on.
Yeah, I showed Sharon an example as well, and I had quite a proud moment because I took this well, I'm calling it corroded copper, but I put the age slider up so the patina starts to appear, but I have the roughness down so you can still see some parts of the copper breaching through, and then I put the ambient grunge node over the top that I made just to see what would happen, and then it worked perfectly. Like in the crevices you see like dirt kind of splatting around, and like it's so cool. It's like someone's just dug up like a partially corroded like copper statue, and it just looks right. So I'm very happy.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about especially like weathering stuff that people don't pay enough attention to. I mean, like artists, once they know what they're doing, do. But I think you see this a lot with beginner artists, that they're not using materiality as part of the storytelling. And you can tell so much just in the materiality and the surface finishes of things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Talking about these packs, I'm also working on this style generator. Like few people know here that I'm working on it. And I showed one of the renders, like the tiles, like the octagonal tiles that I made. I put the animation in the chit chat as well, not in chit chat, in the general chat. So I showed my mom, and she was like, "Why is everything dirty?" It's like, that's realistic.
Yeah. Life is filthy. We are filthy animals, and we filthy things.
Oh yes.
I just made that a verb.
I think that's one of the things
I'm
that makes
using it.
like
Nice.
you know, Star Wars. I think that's one of the things that makes the aesthetic quite memorable and like separate from so much sci-fi, is because it's actually dirty. Like, because you think like, okay, well, a lot of Star Trek is super clean, except for, you know, like certain areas and stuff, and a lot of other types of sci-fi is super clean. Everything's like medical and high tech and futuristic and quotes. And you get to Star Wars, like kit bash, junk, dust, whatever.
That was what's so cool about it, and that's one of the biggest problems people had with the Phantom Menace, was everything was super clean. I mean, here you had like the princess's ship landing on Tatooine, which is like a filthy, nasty hole, backward planet, and it maintained its shine. It was like, and people were complaining. I was just like, yeah, I'll look past that. I like this, you know, whatever. But it was so funny, and the originals, like the coolest thing about the Mandalorian is they've gone back to that grime. That post, you know, it's like the Imperial and now the post-Imperial era, and it's just the coolest. Like everything's filthy. It's awesome, and they really went back to that.
Also, like talking about all these filthy things, not filthy, but what I'm trying to say is like these architectural renders, like interiors, when people do that, it looks so perfect that it's not real. We can tell it's not real, right? Like most of the time, even though add some dirt. Except if you add something like a chair in Curtis's scene, like something random. It might look realistic. I'm just thinking about it, and it's like
a garden chair.
Like it should not be even, right?
Yeah, a garden chair in a sci-fi corridor is perfect. A half-eaten donut just left over from somebody who may have gotten taken by an alien. Things like that totally works.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, like that's what I was thinking. Like even today, I was working on the scene, and I had like a lot of trees but no leaves. Because I just wanted it to look clean, and I didn't point out, okay, you should add leaves, and Sam pointed it out. I was like, okay, let me add leaves, and it looked way better than what I was expecting it to look like.
Yeah,
you just don't realize how dirty pavements are, and it's like it's not just dirt in the corners as well. It's like people's chewing gum and receipts that they've dropped, and like the bottle that's been run over in the gutter.
Yeah,
it's just like there's so much stuff.
That's what Ian is great at doing. He just adds so much junk into his stuff, and it looks so real because he puts so much crap in there. And it really helps. Like he'll photo scan crap and just throw it into a scene, and it makes such a difference.
Yeah, he's got a real knack for taking real life and just like ripping it into the 3D space, and it does make a big difference.
It's like concept artists doing like matte painting, just putting on pictures and painting on top over it. Like it's just
photo bashing in 3D.
It does, photo bashing in 3D.
That's pretty much exactly what it is. But yeah, talking about like the chewing gum. Like, you know, ancient chewing gum, that's what I'll call it, whereas like the marks have just turned really dark. Like it won't take you like 5 seconds to find one somewhere in real life, and yet who puts it in 3D renders?
Yeah.
Ian.
But that's not exciting, Curtis. I want to do the exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to model chewing gum.
We've got to
Yeah.
do it. Well, like if you do it once, you never have to do it again, right? If you're, clever with how you prepare it.
Add it to a collection and then use it as a particle system.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing projects like this now with the metals thing, because I think, okay, what do I want to use in art that I will never, ever, ever have to make again? Okay, make it now and done. Like, so you can just use it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, what about after this? I love concrete. Oh, I want to use concrete and everything. Maybe I'll do a concrete thing afterwards. Yeah.
Yep. I did an injected concrete texture. You know the ones which have like the holes, the circle holes that get dropped in by crane. So I did one of those, and I've got a wood generator one. And I just like whenever I do big architectural projects, I'm just like, do I want to look through all of my textures to try and find the right texture, or do I just want to drop this node on?
Yeah, and how crazy is it? How crazy is it because you know all that stuff, right? And as an artist, you want to put it in, but your clients want this pristine render of this perfect architectural thing, and you're just like, but even new construction has like dust because they just built it with dust. Like, it's there because it's filthy. Yeah. Like, but they like. I mean, I work with in engineering, and I'm like, there's grease. There's oil. There are fingerprint smudges. You can't look at this photograph I just took of this new thing that you made. But no, we want it perfect. Okay, it's easier for me. I don't have to add it. Great.
Yeah.
But
it's all like it doesn't make
you wanted it to look real.
Even in the it's like new 3D product animation which is super clean, and in real life it just looks so garbage. Yeah.
I know. Like this is look at this. It's like called broken, and this color looked cooler on Amazon when I bought it, by the way. So
did you leave a review?
Yeah. I was a little disappointed. in the hue that showed up.
Maybe switch the color management.
I want to, but I can't because it's real. So I dirtied it.
Something weird happened. Yesterday I was working on this scene, and Erin was like, okay, switch it to standard color management. I was like, okay.
I would never give that advice.
And only for rendering it, okay? So I can composite later on to make it look better than what it is right now. So what I did was I did the whole lighting in in a new scene which I was working. I put it to standard so that I can composite later, and I did the whole lighting, and it looked terrible.
You want it in Filmic so you can composite it because you want more stops, don't you? You want as many f-stops as possible.
Yeah.
But what just happened was it went terrible, and someone in the voice chat, I think it was JC, he was like, "Are you using standard?" I was like, "Yes." Change it to Filmic.
Yeah, Filmic is pretty nice. That nice response is it really helps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that in compositing now too. I was able to take the Filmic LUTs or whatever you want to call them, and pipe them into DaVinci and into Resolve, and you can get the response. So it's pretty nice. Yeah, I don't know if it's cool. Usable, but it looks kind of cool. I mean, everything I'm exporting here is for sRGB, right? So if you're exporting for something like Rec 709 or ASUS or whatever, is that even I don't know, it's confusing, but it looks cool.
Do you not render linear and then you composite the color space into it afterwards?
Yeah, I render everything as EXR, so I think it's in linear 32-bit, and then you take it in. There's that whole side, and it confuses me at the end, but
color is just insanely confusing. It's so hard to understand. Just especially when you're jumping between programs, and everything that I work on has at work. We have what's called a show LUT, and then every shot will have its own individual LUT. So you've got to work with both of these LUTs, and also it has to look good with both of them off. And it's just it's a mess, and it's super confusing. And then you read somebody like Troy Sabatka online, and he's telling you all of it's wrong. So you're like, why do I don't even read up about it because it's just so confusing, and it's all wrong anyway. And I just cheat. If it looks good, then I'm happy. whatever.
Yeah, it's right. Like so if it looks good on your end, right, and then you pipe it because you're in the you're compositing, right? So you're like the last phase before it goes to edit, right, or to finaling, right? So I mean, you guys don't do like DI anymore, do you? It's because everything is pretty much digital from the start.
Yeah.
So,
they give us a run. They'll give us a LUT that's like, here's where it's at now. Here's what we think it's going to be, and then we work to that.
Yeah,
but I don't think we deliver with that on. But I don't know for sure. We may deliver with it on. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
But they always, of course, have the if we did deliver with it on, we'd also, I think, deliver just a standard with no LUT baked in or anything like that, so that they could change it if they needed to. But I'm pretty sure that's how we deliver. I'm pretty sure we don't deliver with anything baked in.
That's still going up to color grading, right? So do you guys do the color grading, or you deliver and then they do the?
We only color grade to match. Color grade. If we get a plate, we match a foreground to the background, right? Like it depends on what. If we're putting CG into a plate, you match the CG to that plate. If you could get actors on a green screen and you're putting in a matte painting or something, you match that to either real shots around it or to the plate, the green screen actors. You got to make sure the whites and blacks are all balanced out and all that between the two. You make them look good together so that then when they get it in the eye, they can do whatever they want and it'll hold up no matter what. So
awesome.
That's the only color correction stuff we do.
My fear has always been, because even if we output to the people who will, the editors generally do their own color grading. I mean, we're not putting stuff out for broadcast, but we are putting stuff out for the proposals. So those are like sometimes $billion, and it does hedge on, if the customer thinks, oh my God, that looks like crap, I'm going to go with that other company, then we we blew $1 billion. But like, so I'm always scared that like the stuff that we do, like when it gets to color grading, they're going to push and pull, and then those blacks are going to separate, and those other colors are going to separate. You're going to see like, the composite lines and all that stuff. So it's like really tricky color wise to like kind of play to that, right? So like it always internal stress when I'm doing that, because I'm like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna work on their end? And I always like calling them. I'm like, I could keep the blacks, don't crush them, because oops. You may not like
all the
it.
time. Like,
does it?
When I worked in film, we would, when you color correct for film, it's different from TV, right? So we would hand off stuff. They would color correct it for film, and sometimes they would completely destroy it or change their minds, like, it used to be night, but we're going to make it look day. And then they would try and do it, and it would just look a mess.
Yeah.
But sometimes you look at the shot in the theater, and you're like, hey, it looks great. And then by the time it comes out on TV, and all the black levels and colors, you're like, whoa, what happened?
Yes.
And it's just that different color space between film and TV. So yeah, it's always hit or miss. You don't know what but that's not, to me, that's not, even though it makes the visual effects look bad or whatever, I don't take any offense. I'm like, that I did my job. Like, that's color people. That's
absolutely
that's their issue to deal with. That has nothing to do with me. So I did my part. So I don't worry that much about it. So
that's cool. Yeah, that is cool. It's always been because I've seen the same thing. Like when you see a film and the stuff looks beautiful in the theater and it's beautiful, like projected and everything, and then you see it on Blu-ray where you can like notice, individual hairs on the actor's face, and it's like, and the things fall apart, and especially in the gamut, and you're like, oh, how did what happened? Oh, and I'm always trying to like work to that, and it's like I don't think you can work to that because it's always changing, right? So it's like I don't know what it's.
I have
stressful.
Yeah, I have some DVDs where there's scenes where I can actually see like the power windows. That like there'll be two actors laying in bed, and you can see the oval around their face. Where outside of that, everything's a different color. Like, it's all blue, but right here it's all warm and orangey. And you could you could almost see like, it's like a 30 blur. Like, you can almost see the value. It's insane.
I've caught that sometimes, especially in the older DVDs when they were color correcting and they were doing like spot color correcting stuff, like you're talking. And it's just like, I see how they. Oh, wow. And I don't know how much that affects us, the broad Blender community, but it's definitely if you're looking to work toward especially making, films and stuff. It's
Yeah.
It's a thing because you don't notice that until you're done, right? And then it goes to print. And you're like, oh, oops. And it's not a big deal if you're just showing it. Like, I mean, honestly, I think this is probably the best. Ignore the color. This is probably the best litmus test for your film. If it works on this is like what 90% of people are going to be watching it on now anyway, right? So I think if it works, it's like when you're on music and you do that car radio test for your song. It's like after it's like mixed and mastered, you go out to your car and you throw it on your car stereo, and if it sounds good there, you're like, yes, we've arrived. Release it, right? So like I think if it looks good on here, it's probably okay. So I've started testing everything I do on the iPhone. I'm like, well, it works there, so probably fine.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of beginners, when they're using Blender, won't even think about compositing. Most people are still in the modeling and add a texture on and maybe start playing with particles to put grass down and things like that.
You're right.
And when you start talking about smudge maps and dirt maps and things like that, they're like, what? UV unwrapping? No, thank you. Procedural materials? Yes, please.
Yes.
I mean,
that's where procedural is great.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing procedural now, because I used to do UV mapping when I was doing game development. And to be honest, I got pretty good at it, I think, but the time investment, I can't be bothered. Like, and
to manually UV unwrap something is it's a pain, and it really bugs me how. I suppose you could separate them into separate objects, but how when you're unwrapping, you can't just go, right, this is the important bit. I've manually unwrapped it. Smart UV unwrap the rest.
Yeah.
Goes, nope. I'm going to ignore all your seams you spent hours doing.
Here's a great idea for an add-on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. But like when I would do game assets and texture them, I kind of realized I was always doing the same things over and over and over again, and I was using 3D Coat to paint them. And 3D Coat has this really nice smart painting system where you can say, okay, I want to paint more on crevices, or or the opposite, or like certain types of geometric surfaces. So like you could choose like something that was a bit more muted and darker, and then paint like the insides, or And I was thinking, wait, that's just ambient occlusion. So if you just take that data and then build a procedural material around it, that's done my painting for me. So why would I unwrap it and do that? So I was like, okay, well, we can do that in game engines because there's ambient occlusion data you could use, kind of. It's screen space, just like EVs. But now that I'm not doing gamer stuff at the moment and I'm just in Blender, I'm like, well, the data's there, so I'll use it. Yeah. I don't need to paint anything now. So,
I mean, I'm not sure if Mixer does bake that map, but I know in Substance Painter, one of the generated maps you can do is a curvature and an ambient occlusion map, and it will do its calculations based upon your geometry and spit out an ambient occlusion map for you.
Yeah.
So some of these maps you don't need to really worry about.
Yeah.
But it's using all of those different programs that have that ability rather than solely relying on Blender to do everything.
Definitely.
Although Text Tools add-on for Blender does all of those maps as automatic bakes if you wanted a curvature.
I installed that the other day and started playing with it. It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah.
I haven't probably tried that yet, but sounds cool.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. There's a
I
free
don't
one
have
as
to
well,
try
so.
because I'm not using. I'm using procedural materials.
But like, I get with like the whole texture painting thing. Like, if you're doing props and characters, and like, I mean, you really need it. But like for my case, because I do mostly environment art, I'm like, well, all the models are relatively simple. All the materials are relatively describable, I suppose, with maths and stuff. So it's not really necessary. That's why I got rid of my Substance subscription, really, because I just wasn't using it anymore.
Yeah, anything with like that you can just like triplanar project and just wrap around and it looks good. You know, a guy I work with wrote a triplanar projection node for Houdini and it just works so well. I just end up using it for like 90% of the stuff we do. And Blender has that ability, I believe, in the object. I think that's doing a triplanar wrap.
That's doing a 3D space. It's very easy to make a triplanar one. Like I've got one that I've got out, and there's a few people. Iyad has a triplanar projection as well. So there's lots floating around that are easy to grab.
I was going to say the challenging thing is with patterns. Sometimes patterns and projection never line up perfectly.
Yes.
That's
so
true.
a brick wall is a classic one. You try mapping that to anything. It's like, nope.
Nope, not gonna work.
Concrete floor though, roll with it. Granite, go with it.
Yeah,
I find it so immersion breaking as well. You're going to a castle in a game, and you'll go around a corner, and then like the walls that are supposed to be solid stone, they'll like be offset, the textures on the edge where they're supposed to be meeting, and it's supposed to be the same stone. And it's like, wow, it looks like it's wrapping paper.
Yeah, that's the pain too, because it totally breaks the fourth wall and pulls you out of the game, and you're just looking at it. Like, even if you're not even a 3D artist, you're still looking at that. That looks fake. That's not, something isn't right there. I don't know what it is. So yeah, it's tough though, because in games, like you're constantly, like Curtis will go through the games. You know, you're saying how you go through games looking for these like imperfections and things where they cheated, and you know,
my observation for any aspiring game devs out there is, if you want your game to be timeless art-wise, don't go for realism. Don't even try doing photorealistic. I know that all the big budget companies want to do it because they want to look impressive. Look what we can do. Oh, RTX on. Yeah, wonderful. Don't. It'll be outdated within a year. Like, when you look back at realistic games, I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 still holds up pretty well, but it's only a matter of time, right? But the stylized games are the ones that are timeless.
Minecraft.
Minecraft, exactly.
But like another example, I've been playing Dishonored 2 again recently, and Arcane with Bethesda Studios, they do such a good job on the art style of that. Like, the characters are kind of, they take hints of realism, but they're still
caricaturized, aren't they?
Yeah, everything's caricaturized, like you say. It's like if you stopped and took a screenshot, it's like a matte painting almost, but it's still kind of realistic. And like, you could play that for like decades to come, and it would still hold up because it's not trying to be realistic. But that's why I really love stylized games. Cyberpunk's just come out, and I think it's not really photoreal. You can see that they've kind of tried to be a little bit, but even the characters are they're not completely realistic, and I really appreciate that, because especially like loving the whole kind of Blade Runner aesthetic, I really enjoy just walking around and looking at the world design there, because I think it's really hit a mark. So that's something I always look out for when looking at people's artwork and video game things. And as you say about triplanar projection, it's a cheat that's used quite often, because there are some space games, like if you want to texture an entire space station, I don't know if it's like the X series or probably something else. Of course, like you don't want to have a massive, like, I don't know, 12K texture map to deal with like every part of the space station and keep the pixel density constant and deal with all the tiny details as well. So they just write a little triplanar shader, use seamless textures and assign them to different parts of the mesh, and bish bash bong, you're done. Like, all done really easy. So it's very helpful to just be able to go in and do that. Like, there's so many things you just don't want to spend your time if it's not needed.
Setting up procedural systems initially, the setup might take you 3 times as long to do the procedural system than to just do it once. But if you've got 10,000 items to do it on, you'd be an idiot to do it every time manually.
It's the same as scripting. You know, if you need to export objects with certain parameters, you're either going to have to do it manually and spend 45 minutes exporting, maybe 30 objects, or 7 seconds clicking a button. It makes a huge difference. But you might have spent an hour and a half writing the script and testing it and going through everything else. So for that one project, you're like, that was a bit of a waste of time. But then when the person you've sent the assets to says, could you make this tweak? You're like, yes, because I can deliver it in 6 seconds after I've finished.
And that's going to be the
exactly
shift.
What's happening to me right now. Like, I'm spending so much time setting up the base layers of all these styles, and once that is done, you can just change the seed and you can get 1,000 different results at the same time.
Exactly.
Like, I can imagine that, like, in my future artworks, I'll probably want to add like Rust to stuff a lot. But now that I'm doing these procedural materials with the modular metals pack, I'm never going to need to build Rust ever again, because I've done it in the way where you can put anything underneath it. I mean, I've built a preset so it takes iron, like a realistic value of iron with a good RGB value for it. But you could put anything underneath it if you really wanted to. So I think it's really good thinking that way. And as I'm building the materials, I'm also thinking about abstraction a lot, because there's some like repeating things I do, say multiplying all of the different scale values for different generated textures by a user defined scale value, and I'm like, well, I don't have to make multiplier nodes for all these things, so I end up like grouping them together into like a separate smaller node that could control all of that. So if you're always thinking about how to speed up your future workflow by making tools in the present, your workflow speed is just going to accelerate, like if you keep doing that. So
and that's when geometry nodes, which is still probably going to be a couple of years before that's real. No, I don't know. They're going really fast. So maybe, maybe a year before it's really introduced into Blender and it works across the board. But I think there's going to be a shift in the community, because you're gonna go start from, right now most of the community is at a destructive level, right, where you're just plowing along, you're building a model, you're building something, and that's it, and then spit it out and it's done, right?
Yeah.
But procedurally, you want to build assets, you want to build tools that you can keep using to spit out infinite variations of those things. One thing that we have in Houdini is that we can just build a tool, and we'll spend the time, like Aaron said, we spend the time up front building it, but we're still using these things. Like there are things that we use all the time that we can just throw down a node, boom, it's done. The whole scene is like right there, and then we can just tweak whatever we want from there. So like on one project, we spent a lot of time building that up, but then the customer gets the benefit of a much faster delivery with us versus the competition, because we already have the tools built, so we can already throw that stuff out for almost nothing. And then we can focus on the iterations that keep coming and the changes and all that stuff. So I think Blender's moving in that direction faster than any other software right now. And
gives me an interesting thought, actually, just you mentioning that there's a lot of artists in this space using Blender who are maybe less interested in art and more interested in like the tools that they make. Like that's kind of what I find so fascinating about proceduralism, is generating these tools, and I don't necessarily use them once I've made them. Like the fun of the project for me is building the system, and then I'll send it out, I'll sell it, or I'll give it away, and then that's fine. But I'll move on to the next thing then. But I think a lot of people who are not necessarily working in professional situations yet, they don't realize that actually being like somebody who makes tools, not somebody who makes art, that's like a totally viable career choice. Like you can be the person who comes in as the technical person, just make tools, just support the artists, and that's totally viable. You can do that and you'll be, well, very desirable actually.
Technical directors on average make a lot more money than a lot of other disciplines. TDs are always a good TD, whether it's artists, pipeline lighting TDs, or just pipeline TDs, are just always in demand.
You should
we had a guy that went to Disney for like 5 years, and then he came back and like man, we had to pull to get him back. And I mean, he writes these amazing tools and everything for us, and he just upped his salary by like 40%. I mean, just in one shot, in one move. It was like, you're right. There's a big career path there.
If you're someone in this community that likes making tools, but you're not much of an art person, so you don't really know how to market it or present it or brand it or like show people the potential, then you should probably try and find someone who is arty to team up with, because you could probably make a really good power combo.
Yeah, definitely. And listen to their complaints. Oh, it's taken me ages to do this. And then you might go, well, like an array modifier, if that didn't exist, you could write something to duplicate things along a path. You'd be like, oh, okay, awesome, boom, out there. And that's probably how an array modifier originally came to be. It's really low-hanging fruit, obviously, but someone would have gone, I'm fed up of repeating this. Can we make something that I can click a button and tell it how many times?
Yeah.
And then they went, oh, how about if I can repeat it on 2 axes at the same time?
Yep.
Yeah, that does make me think that every time I use a tool that I've made in a project, I always add something. Because when you finally have like a project use case to put it on, you suddenly see it in the right perspective of usability. Because I made the Halt tools Atom recently, and as I was doing that, I had Easy BPY also open in like a little window, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm calling this function from there, but I also want to add this, so let me write that in there, and I'm always making notes so I can add that later. And same thing with this modular metal thing. When I was trying the ambient grunge thing, I plugged it and I was like, oh, actually, I need to have like these extra inputs there as well. So let me add that, and I can add that to version 3 of the ambient grunge. So I'll make a note about that as well. And you're like, well, when you have the technical and the artistic perspective, you can really make something that's properly viable. But if you're missing one or the other, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot slightly. So it's good to get a wider viewpoint.
Yeah, definitely. And the only way of skilling up in either one of those is either to start doing art or to start doing technical stuff. I remember when I couldn't code. If you go back 5 years, I'd be like, yeah, I touched C once, and there's something about going in and out and stuff. But ever since I started to delve a little more into code, it really made a big click when I suddenly made myself a tool that did something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just for the sake of just writing a tool, because anybody can sit down and write a tool. But if there's no end goal, like you're saying, then you can't really see the viability of it and whether or not it'd be worth anything to anybody else. But the moment you actually write something, you're like, this has saved me a ton of time. And if you share it with people, you get feedback. That's the other thing. Share things, especially when you're earlier on, share things for free. You'll get people commenting on your code style as well. That'll help you improve. And also, I've had people say, "Oh, could you include this as well? Because it doesn't work for characters." I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
This whole conversation. This is why the Blender Animation Studio is a good thing, I think, because like it stops them from tunnel visioning in on like just the tech developer mind that can be very closed minded, to put it nicely, and actually have people on the inside go, actually, that's not a good thing. Let's make this more artist friendly. You know, maybe that's why they've gone from particle nodes to geometry nodes now.
So is particle nodes dead?
No, I don't think it's dead. It's just they're kind of shifting focus.
I think it's a lot of the things that were going to be developed for particle nodes, things like the spreadsheet viewer, they're going to be developed like all the way with geometry nodes now, because obviously we need like vertex viewers and things. So it's kind of parallel development, but then they'll shift back to particles afterwards.
Yeah, I think having geometry nodes at first is key. If you look at Houdini SOPs, the surface operators, it's geometry node seems to be going in that direction, where it's you're operating on geometry as a whole, and then you can branch off into things like particles and dynamics and all that other stuff. But like having command of just doing stuff with geometry at the base level is like key to like everything. And after that, it's just once you understand that, you can just apply it to so many different things. So I think starting with that is wise for them, and then as an educational tool to educate people on the future of Blender, because once it starts going procedural, it's a mind shift. I mean, when you start working procedurally, it's a totally different mind shift, and it's an uphill battle for a lot. It was for me, thinking in terms of recipes versus craftsmanship, and then bridging the two once you understand how to use recipes in a crafty manner.
A few months back, must have been about 6 months ago, I was building a New York style building with skyscraper, stairwell down the side and different layers. And in the instructional videos, I was talking about how you can link drivers to pretty much anything within Blender, and it would be much better with the geometry nodes. This is the way it's going, but instead of having to right click, find what the RNA of that particular thing is and paste it in over here and copy drivers, because it was very difficult to know what was controlling what, because nothing was linked. There was no cabling or anything else between those. You had to remember which parts were linked across. But it was brilliant. Once it was working, you could just say, oh, how many floors do you want on your building? 6. It'll put the appropriate amount on it. It'll move the roof and everything else to the right heights and everything automatically, and that was very liberating, being able to see that. But it is but geometry nodes is going to make that much more visual, so you don't have to right click on stuff. And
I think they're moving towards having everything, not necessarily everything, but certainly a lot of things attribute based, and like being able to use your own attributes and things. And I'm not sure how I feel about this, because I think as soon as you make something attribute based, you require the user to know the name that they have to call, to know how they've got to use this value field that just accepts a string. And it's like, to me, exposed values and connecting node sockets together visually means that you can intuit your way through a problem. You can see like, oh, those numbers are actually pretty similar where I've just eyeballed it. So maybe if I connect those both to a value node, and then you find that actually both of those things should have been the same, and now you've got this extra functionality because you just kind of, you saw that there was probably a pattern there, and there was. And I think there's a real
Yeah.
risk of hiding stuff behind
I was
knowledge that
using
you just have to
attributes.
know.
I was using vertex colors the other day in order to output an ID mask map for a game engine to use.
Yeah.
And that you need when you're in the shader editor, you use the vertex color attribute node, and I banged my head against and I should know this. I banged my head against the wall several times because it's case sensitive. Little things like that would. I was just like, oh, really? Capital C.
Yeah.
But there are some which are, some is case sensitive, or it's all case sensitive, but some are camel case, and some are the other one which like starts with a lowercase, but then it's camel case after it.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Camel case and snake case are like the divisive variations. Whenever, because we had this massive conversation when we were writing Easy BPY, because when I put the module out, I suddenly got like a bunch of requests or issues from people that are really stuck up about how you write the module. They're like, well, I don't actually like that you've written like these function names or whatever, like with the underscore or like with capital letters and that, because it's not conventional with Python or whatever. I'm like, or with Blender even. I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. Then I was like, okay, well, I agree with using snake case because this is more how Blender uses it, where you have like underscores between like names for stuff. But there were some requirements that were like, oh, actually, I think you should have like a space after commas in like argument definitions, because that's what it's like in like, you know, other types of the code. And I'm like, you know what, maybe let's just leave it there, like, because we can't be that stringent with stuff. I mean, the whole point of like the module anyway is to make things easier for people to understand, like, you know, sacrifice convention and efficiency for the sake of usability. And I guess this is kind of where the conversation's going anyway. But I totally agree, like with the whole node-based thing. If you make things a bit more human understandable, you can kind of interpret things in a way where you don't need to know every finite piece of data to be able to use the system. But one thing I do want to say, geometry nodes, I think, and I don't know whether people will realize it yet, is going to open up massive potential for money making in Blender from a business standpoint. I mean, just think about the number of products that have been made for material nodes and stuff so far as well. And since it will allow for so much more in terms of procedural content generation, even looking at things like, you know, photo scanned assets, just things that people can just, you know, throw in, use for like every single project. No one's going to second guess it. If there are people that can make procedural systems for Blender that are going to generate assets just on the fly like that people don't need to think about, then that's going to be a huge venture. And I think that anyone listening now, or even us, will be in a good position to make use of that when it becomes stable enough to actually start building content for.
Yeah. Especially with the asset manager.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That has to be stable, because if you like one thing you get with like Houdini is you get the digital assets. I keep saying Houdini because it's probably like the closest that Blender is going to be.
It is
going to be going toward. None of the other software really do that. And the digital assets are amazing. You can just throw down one node, boom, you have a digital asset, and you can expose parameters, you can plug things in, and you can get all kinds of like different crazy effects with it. And you don't even have to know what's inside it as an artist. You just have to use it. That's what's so cool about something like Houdini Engine, which is you can just build stuff. You can build tools and then pipe them into Unreal, and then artists can just use those tools that you made inside Unreal or Unity's interface, or even Maya or 3D Studio Max or whatever, in all of those interfaces, and just use, you know, these massive procedural systems. I think it was a Pixomondo did a video showing how they were working on it was a World War II movie. I can't remember the name of it. But they had created all these explosion assets and all these like cool things for the artists to use. And so the artists were like doing this stuff in Maya, and they were just like throwing down these Houdini explosions and stuff, and, you know, scattering and all this other stuff just in Maya, using the tools that Houdini artists or the technical directors built and just gave to the Maya artists, and they could use it inside there. So it could be a very similar type thing where you know, in Blender, you just have people producing these digital assets, and then other people, artists, just using them for whatever they need.